At this point, what is Sherry doing?
Sherry's dead.
She's dead.
Our story begins in South Salt Lake, Utah. On the afternoon of November 30th, 2010, Salt Lake County 911 receives an alarming call.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
Oh, my wife's been murdered.
What address is this at?
3466 South 700 East.
Okay, repeat the address for verification. Okay.
Pardon? 3466 South 700 East.
And what city are you in?
Salt Lake.
Are you in South Salt Lake?
Yes.
Okay, what's the phone number you're calling from?
I come home and my wife's been murdered. Pair of scissors sticking in her.
Is this a house or an apartment?
This is a husband.
No, are you at a house or an apartment?
I am in a house in my shop.
What's the name of the business?
B&W Billiard.
Okay, I'm getting help
Bookstore.
started too, okay, sir? I'm just going to ask you a few more questions while help is on the way.
Fuck.
Are you with your wife now?
I'm in the other room, yes. Oh, fuck.
How old is your wife? Okay, is she awake?
No, she's dead.
Okay, is she breathing at all?
No, she's dead. She's cold. Oh, fuck.
Is the person who did this, could they still be nearby?
I doubt it.
Is there any serious bleeding?
Oh, just get here.
Okay, I do have help on the way. I need to ask you some more questions just to get help started, okay?
No, just get here.
Okay, I have help on the way too. Is there any serious bleeding?
I don't know. She had a pair of scissors sticking in her, and I pulled them out. Fuck almighty.
Okay, I'm sending the paramedics to help you now. Stay on the line and I'll tell you exactly what to do next, okay? You said you already took the scissors out?
Yes. Oh, fuck.
Okay, listen carefully. I want you to lay her flat on her back and remove any pillows.
I haven't touched her.
Okay. Can you get next to her to see if we can start CPR on her?
Oh, you can't. She's cold. Oh, fuck. Oh, man. What the... Jesus Christ.
Where has she been stabbed at?
Pardon?
Where has she been stabbed at?
Oh, I don't know. In the chest. It doesn't matter. Just get here. You can't save her. She's gone.
Okay, let me give you some CPR instructions to help her, okay?
I can't handle this.
Okay, I need you to get in the room with her, and I want you to lay her flat on her back on the ground.
She's flat on her back.
Okay. I need you to kneel next to her and look in her mouth for any food or vomit, okay?
Hey, she's dead. Just get here.
So you don't want to do CPR?
She's cold. She's dead. Fuck them. Hey, Sherry's been murdered. Yes, get Heidi.
Do you have any idea who could have done this, sir?
I have no idea. It's the bookstore. I have no fucking idea.
It's a bookstore?
Yes.
Where at in the business are you?
A bookstore.
No, are you, where at?
Sir, we're just arriving. Sir, we're just arriving. This is the dispatcher. Just stay on the phone with my friend, okay?
Sir, where at inside the building are you? Are you just right inside the doors, or where are you?
I'm right inside the door. Mike, you get somebody there.
Is that where your wife is at also?
She's in the bookstore here.
Do you have any idea who could have done this?
No.
Do you know what time frame this could have happened between?
Hey, I just got home. Just goodbye.
No, don't hang up, sir. Sir, are you still there?
Oh, my God.
Jerry Silva was the first officer on the scene. A man in the bookstore's driveway flagged him down. The man said, "She is back there." Officer Silva asked, "Who are you?" The man replied, "Michael." Officer Silva asked Michael who else was back there. He stated, "Earl, the husband." At that time, the officer noticed a man exit the bookstore. Officer Silva asked him if there was anyone else inside. Earl stated, "She is in the back." With backup now on the scene, officers enter the bookstore. They cleared the main area and made their way to the back room. When they reached the doorway, they found the body of 64-year-old Sherry Black lying on the floor, covered in blood. A jacket covered her chest and waist. The visible injuries were severe. Officer Silva described the coloration in her face as onset rigor mortis. He said it was obvious the female was deceased due to her wounds. A large amount of blood had pooled underneath her body. Lying next to Sherry was a large pair of scissors caked in blood. After clearing the store of any subjects, the officers exited, secured the perimeter, and taped off the scene. Sherry Black was a dedicated mother and grandmother who built a life with her childhood sweetheart, Earl Black. The couple was married for 46 years and operated a successful billiards business for decades. Sherry always loved books and wanted to build a library of her own. She slowly expanded that library, but soon her collection of books outgrew the couple's home and spilled into the building where Earl ran his billiards business. By all accounts, Sherry was a very bright book collector and seller, specializing in valuable rare books. Outside the store, Earl Black and Michael Vasquez provided initial statements to police. Earl said he and his employee Michael just returned from working in Riverton, Utah. They did not find Sherry where she usually is at home, so they went next door to the business he and Sherry own because her vehicle was in the driveway. Earl said they searched the bookstore and located Sherry in the far back room. The officer asked Earl if, out of respect, he covered Sherry's body with his jacket. He replied, "Yes, I covered her after I pulled the scissors out of her chest." Earl said he last saw Sherry alive at 9 a.m. when he left for work. He broke down crying and became difficult to understand, therefore the officer stopped the interview. Earl said he had called his daughter Heidi and she was coming. The officer then spoke with Michael Vasquez. Michael said he was with Earl all morning, setting up a pool table in Riverton. He had known Sherry and Earl for over 20 years and could not think of anyone who would harm them. Michael stated they could not find Sherry in the house when they returned to Earl's place, so they checked the business. The front door was closed but unlocked. As they walked through the bookstore, Earl called out for Sherry. Michael then heard a short cry from Earl. He ran over and found Earl kneeling next to Sherry. He said that's when Earl called 911. Crime scene technicians photographed the scene as detectives try to piece together what happened. Outside, officers fan out, canvassing the neighborhood, gathering statements from neighbors, and searching for surveillance cameras. Back at the scene, detectives combed through the bookstore. The front door to the business had a bloodstain near the handle. Inside the store, the common area where customers would shop was undisturbed. At the threshold of the entryway to the back room, several rolled-up maps were leaning against the wall. Detectives discovered blood on those maps and the door to the back room. A bloody partial handprint was on the wall next to the telephone. The scene inside the back room was of absolute horror. There was blood everywhere. The victim was on the floor in a semi-sitting position. Her eye appeared bruised with possible lacerations on her face. A brown leather jacket was on top of her waist. When they removed Earl's jacket, it was clear it was a sexually motivated attack. The perpetrator manipulated Sherry's clothing in a way that left her exposed. A wooden stepladder with blood on it was behind the victim. Investigators found bloody fingerprints and an Armani belt near Sherry's body. They recovered semen along with 2 other DNA sources, one from the Armani belt. The 3 separate sources of DNA are later determined to be from a single male source. The officers canvassing the area relayed the initial statements of neighbors to detectives. Most neighbors saw nothing out of the ordinary. A few witnesses reported seeing a sedan parked near the business with 4 male occupants. One witness saw a black man running down the street sometime between 10 and 10:30 a.m. A nearby residence had a surveillance camera that pointed westbound onto the main road, 700 East. Detectives asked the homeowner for footage between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. The footage confirmed Earl and Michael's story of leaving around 9:30 and returning around 1:20. The timestamps are off by 1 hour due to daylight savings time. The next day, when sat down for a formal interview, Earl told investigators that Sherry had a meeting with a book vendor around 10:30 a.m. The vendor had called Earl after hearing what happened to Sherry. He told Earl that he was at the shop around 10:30 to see Sherry, but she was not there, so he left. Detectives contacted the book vendor and he told them the same story. The man waited inside the bookstore for around 45 minutes before leaving for another appointment. With the timeline the vendor provided and the medical examiner's time of death, detectives knew that Sherry was deceased before the man left the bookstore. Investigators asked the vendor to come to the station for additional questioning. The man advised them that he would have to speak with his attorneys first. The detectives were suspicious of the man's actions. However, 2 days after Sherry's murder, the book vendor came into the station with his attorneys. The man repeated his account. When asked if he had entered the back room or whether the door was open, the man said he didn't know of the back room. Investigators initially found his statement to be odd. However, after reviewing the pictures and the store layout, his story became more plausible. The door to the back room was not visible from the front of the store, and the back room door matched the wall. It had the same paneling and paint color as the wall. As detectives became less accusatory, the vendor was cooperative. He provided the clothes he wore that day, his finger and palm prints, and his DNA. Investigators were able to eliminate him as his palm print did not match the one found at the crime scene. Detectives went to the coroner's office with the investigation back at square one. The medical examiner located a bite mark on Sherry's body and a total of 15 stab wounds. The examiner ruled Sherry's death a homicide, and the cause was blunt and sharp force injury to the head, neck, and torso. In the days following Sherry's homicide, detectives contacted all of Sherry's known friends and family in the area and eliminated them through either DNA testing or fingerprint comparison. With those close to Sherry eliminated, detectives realized that a stranger had murdered Sherry. On January 11, 2010, 6 weeks after Sherry's murder, investigators received a tip from a confidential informant claiming that an acquaintance of his bragged about killing Sherry. The informant said the plan was not to kill her, but to rob her. Detectives made contact with the person who reportedly claimed responsibility. He consented to a DNA swab but didn't want to speak with detectives. The man's DNA did not match the unknown suspect's, ruling him out. 18 days after Sherry Black's homicide, investigators learned of another woman brutally killed. Just 2 miles away, inside the woman's bathroom of Fairmont Park, was the lifeless body of 45-year-old Christine Gable. The two cases had similar levels of brutality and were sexually motivated crimes. However, there was one key difference between the two attacks. Police apprehended the suspect in Christine Gable's murder. His name was Paul David Vara.
Want to have a seat over here?
The detectives were sure that he was also responsible for Sherry Black's murder. But a shocking discovery was made when they reviewed the man's extensive criminal record. He had been in jail when the attack on Sherry had occurred. The community was shocked to know that there were two people capable of such horrific acts. The Sherry Black homicide at the time was the most high-profile murder in Utah. Sherry's daughter Heidi is married to Greg Miller, the CEO of Larry H. Miller Group. The company owns and operates dozens of car dealerships, sports teams, and other businesses across 46 states. Sherry's family immediately offered a reward of $50,000 for information leading to an arrest. The reward led to roughly 100 tips. The investigators divided those tips amongst themselves and eventually exhausted every lead. The case went cold. As years passed, detectives worked the occasional leads provided to them, but their efforts were fruitless. However, Sherry's family never lost hope and consistently met with detectives for updates on the case. The lead investigator who worked on the Sherry Black murder retired as the investigation stretched into its 6th year. The case was taken over by the Unified Police Department Major Investigations Unit and into the hands of Detective Ben Pender. Detective Pender re-interviewed the family, friends, and neighbors of Sherry Black and worked with the Utah Bureau of Forensic Services to understand what he could do with the suspect's DNA. The Combined DNA Index System, or CODIS, is the United States National DNA Database. The unknown male suspect's DNA had been compared to every profile in the database weekly for 6 years with no matches. To move the case forward using the latest in DNA technology, Detective Pender contacted Parabon Nanolabs and gave them a sample of the unknown male suspect's DNA. Parabon Nanolabs is a DNA technology company specializing in DNA phenotyping and genetic genealogy analysis. On November 30th, 2017, the 7th anniversary of Sherry's murder, with the help of Parabon, 3 sketches were released. Parabon's snapshot prediction technology forecasted what the suspect may look like at various ages. During the anniversary event, Greg Miller, Sherry's son-in-law, also announced a $250,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. The public event, held in front of Sherry and Earl's Bookstore, led to hundreds of tips. Investigators worked those tips and were once again left nowhere closer to solving the case. On May 1st, 2018, Detective Pender met with representatives of the Utah Bureau of Forensic Services to discuss the recent arrest of the Golden State Killer, Joseph James DeAngelo Jr., and how detectives used GEDmatch to identify him. GEDmatch is a database that allows users to upload their raw DNA from genetic testing companies like 23andMe or Ancestry DNA. Detective Pender provided additional DNA from the suspect to Parabon Nanolabs, as they now had a dedicated team of genetic genealogists led by well-known genetic genealogist C.C. Moore. In April 2019, a representative of Family Tree DNA, a genealogy and ancestry company, contacted Detective Pender. Family Tree DNA offered to run the suspect's DNA through their database, which was separate from Parabon's. Using both databases, genealogists provide Detective Pender with a list of names of distant relatives of the suspect. Parabon required DNA samples from the listed individuals to narrow down the familial line of which the suspect was a descendant. The detective traveled the country from coast to coast, collecting samples from relatives who agreed to provide their DNA. When those profiles are entered and analyzed, Parabon provides Detective Pender with another set of relatives from which to collect samples. This process repeated multiple times as they closed in on the suspect. In June 2020, Dr. Barbara Ray Venter, a genetic genealogist best known for identifying the Golden State Killer, contacted Detective Pender. Dr. Venter began working on the case, providing additional names for DNA collection. On September 21, 2020, Detective Pender received a call from Carol Rolnick of Parabon Nanolabs. She said she had located the suspect's father and grandmother in Sacramento, California. However, even with Detective Pender's access to law enforcement databases, they could not identify the suspect. Less than 2 hours later, Detective Barbara Venter calls and provides Detective Pender with the identical information Carol had given him. With the two independent groups of genetic genealogists coming to the same conclusion, Detective Pender was confident they would finally catch Sherry's killer. The next day, he contacted the suspect's grandmother and arranged to meet with her and her son, the suspect's father, at her residence. On September 24, 2020, Detective Pender flew to Sacramento, California, and drove to the residence. He sat with the suspect's relatives and discussed the Sherry Black homicide case. He shows them pictures of Sherry and Earl and their residence. Detective Pender asked the grandmother if she had any children besides her son. She replied no. He then asked the son for the names of all his biological children. The man gave their names, but all of his children were female. Detective Pender then asked him if he was aware of any biological children whom he had not raised. The man replied that there was someone in high school with whom he was intimate and later informed him that he was the father of her child. The man said he was unsure if the child was his, as he did not do a paternity test. Detective Pender asked for the name of the child. The man replied Antonio and didn't know the child's last name. He provided the name of the woman he was intimate with. He showed Detective Pender a picture of Antonio. The picture was of the child's birthday party. With the date on the back of the photograph, they determined Antonio's birthday. Detective Pender informed the man that Antonio was his son and that he was most likely responsible for the crime. The father and grandmother willingly provided DNA samples. After leaving the residence, Detective Pender called the genealogists and told them they should be looking for a man named Antonio, born in 1991. After some research, Carol Rolnick and C.C. Moore located the name Adam Antonio Spencer Durborough. The name was nowhere in the case file. Detective Pender located an address for Adam Durborough in Orem, Utah, 35 miles from Sherry's Bookstore. Adam's adult criminal history involved 3 minor theft charges, so his DNA wasn't in CODIS. Detective Pender described Adam's juvenile record as extensive, with sex-related crimes along with assault charges. A team of officers conducted surveillance of Adam's apartment. On October 3, 2020, Adam left his apartment in his white Ford Focus. The officers followed him to a fast food restaurant where he placed an order in the drive-thru. After receiving his order, Adam ate in the parking lot. When finished, he discarded his drink cup and food container. Police collected the items and sent them for DNA testing. 5 days later, Detective Pender received notification that the DNA from the discarded fast food items matched the unknown male suspect's DNA collected at the crime scene. After obtaining an arrest warrant, Detective Pender and company arrested Adam the next day in a Walmart parking lot.
So it's Adam, that's right?
Yes.
And then do you have a middle initial or name?
Antonio Spencer.
Okay. Where does Spencer come from?
That's actually my birth name was Antonio Spencer.
Oh, okay. And last name then is Durbo?
Durborough, yeah.
Duraborough.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Duraborough.
Delta Uniform Romeo, Bravo, Oscar, Romeo, Oscar, Whiskey.
Okay. Do you have a relationship? And we talked a little bit about your adopted parents, and you asked me about your father. Do you have a relationship with those parents anymore?
I do, yes.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we parents and kids, and of course,
sure.
I have a different personality than them, so we butt heads a lot, but I do care for them.
Sure. I think that's with a lot of us, though. Adopted or not, I think kids and parents butt heads quite often.
What were you into before Dungeons and Dragons?
Honestly, I didn't really, other than reading and video games, working, I just kind of, I just worked, came home, just did my best.
What other things do you do other than just video games?
I like to read. I have a few books.
Yeah? Are you big into, like, sci-fi?
More of a fantasy.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a nice thing.
Kind of takes you out of this world, huh?
Oh, yeah. It's kind of lets you just forget stuff sometimes, yeah.
Right. You do podcasts?
I listen to a few, yeah.
Okay. What one?
Critical Role. So it's a live-action Dungeons & Dragons one. I did try Irony, Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
I listened to some of those for a while. Never really got into them, though.
No?
We'll go ahead and get started. And I know we kind of had a conversation in the car a little bit as well. You have any idea why you're here today, Adam?
Pretty solid idea.
Okay. And I'll tell you right up front, I'll be 100% honest with you, okay, about everything. And if you have questions, if I can answer them, and I'll answer them for you. If I can't, or if they're stuff that's just confidential right now, I'll just say I can't, it's confidential information, stuff like that. But I'll be 100% honest with you about everything, okay? I'm not here to trip you up or lie to you or cause any problems or anything like that. The reason you're here today is you're here because of the Sherry Black case. We don't have you here because we're wondering if you did it or not. I know you did it, okay? I've been working this case for over 5 years. You've probably even seen me on TV before working this case, but I've been very active in this case, and today's the day really that I wanted to try to have an opportunity to talk to you about the why. It's not a matter of who, it's about the why. And listen, I know about your past a little bit. I know about your juvenile history. I know you had a very difficult upbringing, I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, but what I could see, it seems to me that you've kind of had a tough time in your juvenile years, and as you got older, you clearly have matured and you've changed your ways. And I can't imagine this, carrying this around with you for all these years. That would just be extremely difficult, and I can't imagine what you've gone through to have to bear this burden that occurred. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk, but I just want to tell you a little bit. I want to talk to you, so I'm not asking you any questions right now. I'm just telling you a little bit about, this case. Clearly this was somebody's mother, this was somebody's grandmother, and I think during those times when you were younger and stuff, I think you kind of took off on a bad road, but I think as you were younger and stuff, I think you kind of were exposed to different things that kind of, I think, pushed you that way too. With your mother, I think your mom has a little bit of history, and not that she's a bad mother, I just think some of the things that she was involved in and some of the people she was involved in, you probably were around and saw those types of behaviors. And as a young person, a lot of times we acclimate to that. I mean, if our parents are doing something and we think that might be okay, and in my opinion, I think that's what kind of happened here. Is I think you kind of took a different road. And things happened, and clearly, I think since that time, you've made some huge steps forward as far as changing your ways and trying to be a different person. And clearly you have been, right? You haven't been in, I can't see any type of history other than you had a couple of retail thefts as an adult. Other than that, I don't see anything there. So clearly you've been able to make some changes and positive changes in your life because of that. I can't imagine anybody else probably even knows about this. You've bottled this up inside for you for 10 years. I can't imagine holding a secret like that for 10 years without being able to talk to anybody about it and kind of get it off my chest and what have you. But you can continue down the path as when you were younger, when you were a juvenile, you can continue down that path. And yeah, it's an easier path right now. There's places to hide and things to, guard yourself a little bit from. Or you can make a change and decide, you know what, enough's enough. I've carried the burden long enough and I'm going to take the right path. And the right path, as you know, it is going to be a little bit bumpy at first, right? I mean, it's not an easy path to take. But I can tell you, over all the years I've been investigating homicide cases and cold case homicides and being in the same situation with you as I have been with other individuals sitting in that same seat that you're sitting in today, I can tell you when they get it off their chest, they feel a sense of relief and they feel a sense of some calmness in themselves with that, knowing that they've carried that burden around with them. I want to take the why and I want to provide that to the district attorney's office. I mean, clearly I have to screen this case with them. We've already been in contact with them, but I'm going to be screening this case with them this week. And I want to be able to go up there and say, listen, this is what happened. I mean, times were different for him than they are today. This is a different person today. And this is the explanation behind it. Versus just going up and saying, here's our case and we're going to charge him. To me, it makes a lot better sense to be able to provide the district attorney's office a why and kind of personalize you, right? I mean, you're not just anybody or a number. You're an individual, and I want them to see that about you. I truly feel bad for whatever happened to you in your younger years. I think you had a tough time with your mom and with people that she was associating with probably when she was here locally. And then you get in foster or get adopted, you get adopted. And then this situation with your adopted father happens. When I found that out, it's like, does this guy ever get a break? I truly did. I mean, I just feel like he goes probably from one situation that's not probably the best for a child to be in to another one where you think you're going into a good, wholesome, safe place, and then another situation happens, and it's like, where does this young man get a break at? I want to be able to talk to the family and tell them, listen, this is what happened, and this is why it happened. And I can't promise you anything, but here's been my experience. People that cooperate, I tend to think judges, juries, families, people tend to be a little bit more willing to work with that. I don't want to pressure you. I'm not trying to force you to do anything. You, at the end of the day, you're going to make your own decision because, like I said, I know coming here in the car, you said if you're going to talk to me about anything, I want legal representation, and you are entitled to that for sure. Absolutely you are. It's something I couldn't do today. I would have to go and obviously book you into jail and charge you today with that. But again, I would like the opportunity to be able to go up to the district attorney's office this week and be able to personalize this a little bit with them and explain a little bit more of kind of what was going on in that time in your life. And, again, there might be somewhat of an explanation for all of this too.
I'm just trying to think.
Sure. Take your time.
When you guys stopped me today, I knew. I mean, I haven't done anything else in my life. But I definitely felt some relief, which sounds odd. I mean, if it's hurt so much for years, why not just come forward, right? But it's just been one of those things where it's like, I have so many people in my life now that I just didn't want to. That's so selfish.
It's not. I know it sounds like it is, but it's really not, Adam.
This family's been, I've seen them, they've asked for answers, and I've just been, it's been a long 10 years. Probably shouldn't say this without a lawyer, but honestly, it's just, they do need to know. I went into that store, and I had no intention at all to do anything. This is a bookstore. I love books. It was just, I don't know. I was just looking through. There's no one else in the store. And it'd been a rough week. I remember that. I was being told I wasn't making the progress that they wanted to see. My mom was super stressed out. She was afraid that I was just going to be another number in the system again. And I was so angry, and I don't know, I just lashed out. It just happened. She was there, and it's a mistake that I wish every day that I had never ever made. I was young, I was stupid, I was so angry, I was so confused. It wasn't personal, it wasn't planned, it was spontaneous, and I'm sorry that I did it. Not just that I've been caught for doing it, but I am sorry that I did it. I wish I could take it back.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about this, but before I do, obviously I'd have to read you your Miranda rights. And like I said, I know we had talked about this in the vehicle, and you specifically said that, if you're going to ask me any questions, I'd want some representation.
Yeah.
Have you changed your mind? Are you willing to talk to me right now about this and allow me to ask some questions about this?
Yeah, well, I'll answer as much as I can right now.
Okay. Do you understand your rights as I've explained them to you?
Yes.
Are you willing to talk to me and Detective Child here without consulting a lawyer or having a lawyer present with you?
Yes.
If there's something that I ask and you don't want to answer, just say I don't want to answer. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. The first question I have is, do you have any ties? Did you ever have any ties to that bookstore? Had you ever been there before?
No, that was the first time.
That was your first time?
I'd been by it a couple of times. I just never really gone in before.
Okay. And how did you know the bookstore was there?
There was a sign up front.
Okay.
I don't remember what the sign said, but I do remember there being a sign.
At the very beginning of kind of the day, that's around the time, and just kind of walk me through of, how did you get there? I mean, those types of things. I mean, to get me into the bookstore. Where did you come from?
Start of the day, or?
Yeah, let's start the day. Let's start that day of what you can remember.
I think it was a Tuesday.
Okay.
Tuesday or Thursday, I had therapy that day. I remember that. Yeah, I left the foster home, just took the bus. I was thinking for a while. Like I said, the day before, it was just Proctor parents had the talk with me. They weren't super happy. My mom was super disappointed, super worried about me. But I remember I got off the bus and I was just walking and walking for a while. It wasn't long before the therapy session when I saw the building and looked at the time, figured I had enough time to just try to just look around for a bit. So I entered the store. Asked if she had a particular book series in stock. She didn't. I didn't realize that she specialized in certain kinds of books. So, but I decided to look around anyways because I love books. I couldn't really just get into any of them. I was just stewing, just kind of silently fuming, I guess. She was concerned. She walked over and asked if everything was fine. Told her it was fine. I didn't need any help at the time. She smiled and turned away. And there was just a pair of scissors nearby. And I picked them up. And I hit her. I just hit her on the back of the head. And it's just kind of, I couldn't tell you. I was just so angry. I don't know why. Just so angry and just so, I ran out of that store. I'm surprised nobody saw me. I was just running I don't know if I had blood I don't remember if I had any blood on my face or anything, but I just ran. I didn't stop until I got to my therapist's office. Just like a 10, 15-minute run, I think. I didn't realize what I had done until I was in the bathroom just scrubbing. So I was actually, my current Proctor family was on vacation and they didn't take me, so I was with another family in Magna.
In Magna. Okay.
So I took the bus from Magna.
And then how did you get up to their residence?
I took another bus.
Took another bus. And then where did you get off from that bus?
I don't remember. Like I said, I got off at one point and then just walked and walked.
Okay. Were you thinking about going to the bookstore, or
no? I didn't.
You were just
there.
Going on the bus.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I've never really noticed it before.
Okay. So you go to the bookstore. How did you enter into the bookstore? From what door?
Someone I left, so I assume just the front one.
The front door. Okay.
Yeah.
What does that face? As far as what area does that face? Does it face
street? The street.
Okay. So you go to that door. In that door, it's open.
It was open, yeah.
Okay. Was a sign on or anything indicating that it was open?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe it was a flip sign.
So you go into the store. Anybody else there?
No, it's just me and her.
Just you and her. You and Sherry. Okay.
Me and Sherry.
So you go in there, you kind of start looking around. You asked her about a series. What series did you ask her that you were looking for, book-wise? Do you remember?
No.
And she said she didn't have whatever that series was?
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of just started looking around the store. Okay. And I know this is the tough part, but this is where we need to dive in a little bit deeper with what actually happens inside of the store. I know you said you had grabbed the scissors. You hit her in the head. Was she facing away from you when you hit her in the head?
Yes. I'm sure you know the layout of the place.
Right.
But it was not in the main area where the cashier station was.
Okay.
It was kind of that secondary room where the two tables were.
Okay. Is it the secondary room behind the cash register, or is it the other secondary room?
The other secondary room.
Okay.
Not the one behind the register.
Okay. So you go into that secondary room and she's in there?
No, she wasn't in there.
Okay.
She actually came up to me and asked if everything was okay.
Right. Right.
Probably had just a really big frown on my face.
Sounds like she kind of sensed that something was bothering you probably too, huh?
Yeah. That's where I attacked her.
So you attacked her in the back room? And you said that secondary room?
In that kind of, that side room.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I understand it. So you mentioned you grabbed the scissors and you hit her in the head. And I said, did you hit her in the head in that secondary room? Is that accurate to say? Or was she not back there yet?
No, she was back there.
She was back there. Was her back towards you then? What was she doing in there?
She was turning away, like to walk back towards the main area.
When this initially takes place, where are you, in the main area of the store, or are you guys now in the back, into one of the secondary rooms?
No, we're in the main area.
You're in the main area. Okay, so she's walking away, and you said you grabbed some scissors. Where did you see the scissors at?
They were on the table, on one of the tables next to me.
Okay.
They were heavy scissors, very thick.
Okay. How big? Can you kind of give me an idea, size-wise?
They were almost yay big.
So you're kind of putting your hands out like about, I'm estimating,
shorter.
6 to 8 inches?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were like those heavy shearing scissors.
Right. Okay. Do you remember the color of them?
Silver.
And just all silver? Any other color on them?
Just silver.
Just silver. Okay. So you said you'd hit her with the scissors?
Several times.
Several times. And that's as she's walking away from you?
Yeah.
Okay. What is she doing at this time?
She screamed. I don't remember everything here. I've tried, because there are parts. The news, there was a report that you found my belt, and I was like, I don't remember ever taking off my belt, but here we are.
Was that your belt?
I think so. I don't know.
Well, did you later realize you didn't have a belt on that day?
Well, no, that's the thing. Like, I had a belt. Because, I ran, and I used to wear baggy pants.
Okay.
And running in baggy pants without a belt is just impossible. That has always thrown me. Like, I don't remember taking off any belt, but you guys said that you found a belt at the scene, so I've always just kind of been like,
I'm sure you've seen the belt on the news and all over. Is that your belt?
no, I wore studded belts. It was a phase.
So you don't think that was your belt?
I don't think it was, no. The kind of belts I wear are the kind I'm wearing now, and then back then studded belts.
Okay. Is there a reason why your DNA would be on that belt?
I touched it at one point, honestly, but I don't remember. At one point, I do remember I picked up, it was by her, like, for her cashier station. It was this bottle. And I picked it up and hit her over the back of the head with it.
Okay. And where is she at that time when you're hitting her over the head?
She's on the ground at this point.
And
still in that area.
in the main area of the bookstore?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I just punched her in the chest a couple of times. Pushed on her chest and just felt something I don't know,
I know this is really hard for you, Adam, and I really appreciate your willingness and your truthfulness. But you and I both know there's more to this story. You know, you've had to rethink this many times over the last nearly 10 years. Were you attracted to her?
No.
What all happened in that bookstore, Adam?
I can't answer right now.
You can answer that question. So after the fact, after you had left that bookstore that day, as time went on, did you keep an eye on this case?
Somewhat.
And did you keep an eye like on the internet or stuff like that to see kind of what was going on, or anniversaries? And I mean, obviously it was out in the public, right? Quite a bit.
I read now and then, honestly. But honestly, I just tried to pretend that it wasn't me.
Did you kind of keep an eye on things as far as like, during the anniversaries when there was, statements made, kind of progress? I mean, keeping an eye on whether or not they're closing in on somebody or anything?
2017, I think it was 17, there was the, just KSL came out with that they had just gone through with some DNA testing. So I figured it was only a matter of time. After that, I just kind of periodically looked in and just waited.
Have you told anybody about this?
No.
Okay.
How could I?
I mean, of course, you're 19 at the time. Who's going to run and tell on themselves at that point, right? I mean, and as years went on, I mean, hoping that it would just go away, kind of like you said, you just kind of try to put it out of your mind as like it never happened. I mean, and that's understandable. And I think most people would see it that way as well. But I think there's some explanations why you were that person back then. And unfortunately, I think you were raised in, sounds like maybe a single family home to begin with your mother, which is always challenging for anybody. And it sounds like she kind of had some of her issues as well. And unfortunately, you were probably exposed to some of those folks that probably weren't the very best influence on you. And then, as we talked about earlier, you got adopted, and you get into that situation, and then there's problems there too. You just didn't come in off the street and go in there and do this and didn't care about it. There was other things going on in your life at the time.
Adam, but you showing this emotion, this is a good step. I, sitting here and listening to this, believe you are truly sorry for what you did. We could get through this. This family needs some closure. And only you can provide that for them.
You mentioned on our way here, Adam, about your little sister passing away. And I know just talking to you, I still believe you're a man of somewhat of faith and believe in things. And I think you believe that you'll see her again someday. And today is your day. Today is your day to unload this, tell the truth, and that's what your sister would want you to do. You were a different person, like you said. I mean, you were with the Proctors, like you said, and I mean, you were having a tough time. And even you admitted it with your mother. Your mom thought you were just going to be another number as well. What happened that morning at the bookstore, Adam? I mean, I think you've been upfront about everything up to this point. I just think there's more in the bookstore that occurred.
There's not much more that occurred.
want to be able to go in there and say, listen, we sat down and had a visit and he took responsibility. He's a different person today. He's not the 19-year-old back in 2010. He's not that young man anymore. He's a different person. He's changed his life. You've been to the trade schools. You've had full-time employment. You changed your ways shortly thereafter and have to this day. And that's why I believe, number one, I believe you are truly sorry. I mean, you said that. I believe that you are. But you've clearly made changes in your life. And that's positive too. And that's going to be looked at as well, right? I mean, they're going to look at that. A lot of times in these cases, the perpetrators just keep on going on, right? But you haven't done that. You stopped. You stopped and you made positive changes. You've done some things with your life.
Me talking about this. My life as it is, it's over. Me talking about this just kind of finalizes it, though. It's hard to let that go. Again, it's selfish. I'm being selfish. But like I said, they deserve to know.
Nobody can take away from you what you've accomplished. Nobody can take away that from you, okay? Nobody. You've accomplished those things in life and nobody can take that away. You are a young man. You have your life ahead of you, Adam. We need to know everything that happened. Adam, you're a good person. You really are. You are a good person. You made a mistake when you were young.
I am a decent person.
You're a good person.
Who has tried to live the best he could after a mistake. I don't see myself as a monster, but a good person would have turned themselves in, honestly.
Maybe a good person who is maybe in their late 20s, early 30s would have, if they committed that crime then. But at the age of 19, like I said, it's like your mid-20s, and I think you could probably attest to that as well. It's in your mid-20s is kind of when we all of a sudden start figuring stuff out as young men, right? I wouldn't have expected you at the age of 19 to turn yourself in, or 20 or 21. I just wouldn't.
I don't remember when, but I tried to cut her throat open. You remember that? Same scissors. I didn't put myself inside her. I didn't have sex with her. I don't remember how I cut myself or when I cut myself. I do remember I was bleeding from my hand somewhere for sure. That's all I remember.
So when you talked about taking off her bra, and then you said you just looked at her. At this point, what is Sherry doing?
Sherry's dead.
She's dead. When you leave, do you take anything from the store?
No.
No books? No money?
No.
Nothing?
I ran.
Just ran?
I ran.
Does anybody ever come into the bookstore? You never hear anybody come into the bookstore?
I didn't know.
What did you do with the scissors?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay. When you initially go back here and she's walking away from you, that's right. So she's already gone through that back door?
Yeah.
And that's the first time you hit her with the scissors? Okay. So everything else then occurs here?
Yeah.
Okay. Does she fall right to the ground initially?
No, she staggered. So I hit her several times.
How many times do you think? Just an approximate time.
I don't know, man.
More than 10?
Possibly.
Possibly more than 10? And at some point she just collapses then? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to kind of get a picture of when does she actually pass? Is that before or after you're cutting your throat?
I wish I could say. Honestly, I don't remember. I don't know.
Okay. When you're hitting her with the scissors, can you kind of describe that to me? What does that mean? I think of different ways you could hit somebody. I mean, can you kind of show me with your left hand here, kind of so is the handle of the scissors in your hands?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're hitting her with the blades? Okay. And that's how you're hitting her. So you're essentially stabbing her in the head, is that correct? So show me the hand movement again, if you don't mind, just kind of, okay. So you're hitting her like that. Are you hitting her with the scissors or stabbing her with the scissors anywhere else other than the head?
I don't remember. I want to say just the head, but
Did you stab her at any areas of the body, the legs or the chest or the arms or anything back or anything like that? Do you recall?
I can't. No, I only remember just aggressively just hitting her in the back of the head.
Okay. We're talking about the number of times.
It was repetitive. It was fast.
For how long do you think that occurs for then? If you're doing it fast, and can you just kind of give me a motion of how you're doing that again, and just kind of what does fast mean? I mean, fast for me, I'm old, so I'm not fast. This is fast for me. Is that fast for you?
I was just wailing on her as hard as I could. I don't.
Okay.
You guys never found the scissors?
Well, that's one of those areas I can't talk to you about. I'm just asking you what you last did with those scissors.
I don't remember. I took nothing with me from that store.
You said the bottle was over by the cash register area, but you guys were still back in this other room here. So was she already down in there before you went back out to get the bottle? Okay, so you went back out, grabbed the bottle, then went back there and hit her with it, broke it over her head?
Yeah.
And when she's laying down, is she laying down on her face, her side, or back?
She's on her face.
She's laying on her face. Okay. So you hit her in the back of the head with the bottle and the bottle breaks?
Yeah.
Do you do anything else with that bottle?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay.
There are things about that day I remember very well, and there's other parts where it's just I don't remember. I don't know.
You had mentioned that you had removed her shirt and her bra and her pants and undergarments. How did you do that?
I just flipped her over and just pulled them up and then pulled them down.
Okay.
I don't think I ever actually took them off all the way.
Okay.
Did you ever go back afterwards?
No. I've always just avoided it. I've never gone back.
Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. So you believe you pushed up her bra and her shirt. You believe you just pulled. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier during the interview, but we talked about when you were hitting her with the scissors, you were hitting her with the blades, right? But were the scissors closed or were they opened?
They were closed.
They were closed. Okay. So you were hitting her with so they're together, like how the scissors are. Okay.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to ask you is this, if you're willing, is would you be willing to write the family a letter of apology?
Oh.
I mean, that stuff means a lot to people, and to be able to hear that from you. I mean, you don't need to talk about details, but would you be willing to just, kind of express your...
You work with a family. Is that something they'd want for me?
Yeah, it means a lot to families. I had another case many years ago, and actually the family, the husband was already deceased. It was the wife that had passed away in this incident, and they just had extended family. But even with the extended family, it really meant a lot coming from him. Just show that the person had taken responsibility and actually was remorseful for what happened.
Sure.
I'll step out for a little bit and give you some time. Okay. All right. Thank you. You all done?
Yeah.
Okay. You mind signing it there at the bottom for him? Any other cases out there?
No.
This is it?
This is it.
Okay. No other things you were involved with after this occurred that would catch up to you or anything?
No.
Okay.
I wasn't adapting well. You've seen my GV record.
Yeah.
I got put into the system for a reason I shouldn't have. And I grew up there. It's all I knew. I thought that I was this horrible person growing up. I make it through a program, and then they kick you out the door and say, "Okay, adapt and mingle in society." and I couldn't. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't do it. I was struggling. I went to jail for those 2 thefts. Came out and just started trying my best and made it somehow.
Almost seems like you did it better doing it on your own than through the course of all this other stuff. It seems like, is that?
Yeah.
Just briefly back to the bookstore again, and when you were there and just the initial approach from Sherry, was there something that just like, I mean, I know you said you were already angry, and you were angry because it sounds like the Proctor home that you were staying at, they went on vacation, but they wouldn't take you with them.
Yeah.
And did you want to go with them? Or did you really not care?
It would have been nice.
Would have been nice.
Oh.
When you get over to the bookstore, I mean, is there something that sets you off? I mean, was it Sherry's kindness, or was it, I mean, kind of, I know you say you just kind of lost it, but what was the buildup? I mean, help me understand a little bit that whole buildup before the...
I think it was just her being kind, honestly. Just...
Why Sherry?
I don't know, man.
And not only why her, but why would you push up her shirt? I mean, was there some type of an attraction there after the fact, or
no.
Curious, exploring? I mean, is there...
Maybe it's... Up to that point, I'd never even seen an actual person naked.
And just to confirm, I mean, you're okay with... I mean, not that you're okay, but I mean, you agreed to talk.
Yeah.
Today. Is that correct?
Yeah. I know it's gonna absolutely just fuck me over, but yeah.
The system failed you, is what happened. The system failed you. You talked about this all morning with me. You've talked about all these different proctors and all these different therapy and all this other stuff you've gone through to try to help yourself. And at the end of the day, what really helped you? You, right? You're the one that made the change.
Going forward, I'm going to keep doing the best I can, but I mean...
Please do.
I'm looking at it, and it's what I've earned. Going forward is what I've earned, but my whole life ahead of me is just going to be behind walls. There's really nothing I can do about it, because I was young and stupid. Didn't think, where will this take me on the road? It's just my life now. I really am sorry. This is a decision that just rocked so many people's lives. Not just mine. It's every day. I've driven down the freeway, seen her face. Just every year, I'm like, I should just do it. Just turn yourself in. Just get it over with. But then I look at everything I worked for. I'm like, I can't just throw this away. I worked so hard for this. I've come so far. I can't just throw it away, even if I should.
You're going to put your hands behind your back?
Adam was transported to the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office Adult Detention Center and booked on the aggravated homicide charge. At the police station, Detective Pender met with Earl Black, Heidi Miller, and Greg Miller. He informed them that there had been an arrest and provided them with Adam Durborough's name and age. The family thanked Detective Pender for all of his work on the case. After watching Adam Durborough's interview footage, the family decided not to prosecute him on the sexual aspect of the crime, as that would allow the jury, as well as the public, access to his descriptions of the acts he did to Sherry. On October 4, 2021, Adam changed his plea to guilty in an agreement to remove the death penalty. On February 23, 2022, Adam Durborough received a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. Sherry's daughter Heidi said she feels terrible for Adam and added that anyone who could do that is beyond troubled. However, she believed that he needed to be in prison for the rest of his life. Following Durborough's conviction, Sherry's family tried to turn their pain into a positive. They created the Sherry Black Foundation, providing resources and assistance to law enforcement and cold case teams nationwide. Earl said that Adam took away a big piece of his life and that he'll never be over it.